Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us here at 816 Podcasting and presenting from Sacko to Shiva with Chase and Tom. On today's episode, we will cover injuries around the league, give you our 15 wide receivers you should target in early, mid, and late rounds. Listen to find out where we have Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill, and Chris Hogan. Then we will round off the episode with a quick-fire Dynasty edition. Well, Tom, there's been a lot of injuries, and I think one of the biggest ones in fantasy impacts would be Spencer Ware and what to do with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, lots of things happened in these last couple weeks. Spencer Ware, devastating for him. Hopefully he returns quickly.
Yeah, it's always a shame to see a player get injured. It was just what fantasy owners needed for Kareem Hunt on that side. And like I always want to reiterate, we don't want players to get injured. We're just letting you know what to do with the information that happens in a situation like this on the fantasy side, because these are people's livelihoods and we always wish them the best.
On the flip side, that opens up opportunity for Hunt.
Yeah, I moved him all the way up to 13.
Yeah, I'm with you. 13, 14 for me.
Yeah, like I don't see any reason why I would actually put Fournette above him. And it's not because I don't believe in Fournette's talent. I just believe Kareem Hunt has the highest floor, if that makes sense.
Yeah, he's got all the skills. He can block, he catches the ball, he runs the ball well. He was one of the guys that I wanted the Chiefs to pick in the draft before the draft started.
Which, I mean, they went out there, they got him. It's not like Andy Reid didn't believe in Spencer Ware. He said during the combine that he believed in Spencer Ware, that he wanted to see how he is when he's the only guy, but it was good that they brought that depth in with Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, always good to have depth. I still say Dorsey did a good job there.
Now, another big injury in the league was Julian Edelman.
Yeah, that was brutal. I don't know if it hurts the Patriots because they're the next man up kind of team, but losing a player of that caliber is tough.
Now, I saw this interesting stat here recently talking about without Edelman on the field, Tom Brady is like 4 for 5. Like in wins and losses, or the Patriots as a whole.
Well, I'm sure a player of Edelman's caliber affects that.
I mean, he's a good possession receiver, and he's definitely has a great rapport with Tom Brady. Like, he's always one of the go-to looks for him. Him and Gronkowski, favorite targets on the field all the time. So, how does this affect the rest of the team?
Well, the Patriots is another one of those teams where it's the next man up, and I mean, you got to split his 120 targets between Gronk, Cooks, Hogan, Dwayne Allen, all the running backs, so we'll see.
Now, see, I've seen a lot of expert analysis sit there and jump Brandon Cooks up into round 2. And that's where his ADP is going now. And I don't agree with that because I don't think he's going to be the biggest impact off of Julian Edelman getting hurt. I actually have done more research, and I thought that it was going to be either Chris Hogan or Dwayne Allen, who a lot of people seem to be forgetting about that. He's a good tight end. He did good in Indy, although he was always competing with the second person.
Yeah, I like Dwayne Allen. I think he's solid. Chris Hogan, I mean, I think what's going to happen is it's going to be another year where you never know where New England's going to go. One week it could be Brandon Cooks, and next week it could be Hogan. Next week it could be Gronkowski. And it's the running backs.
Now, this is me getting a little off topic. You know, everybody thinks Mike Gillislee with the Patriots is going to be LeGarrette Blount. And one thing that, exactly what you just said, and I completely feel that way, is once LeGarrette Blount was gone, there's no longer that role because Belichick makes roles for players, not players, or doesn't have his players fill a role.
Right. He's one of those guys that likes the movable parts. He always wants to have people in multiple positions and make them succeed.
Exactly. He designs to his players' strengths.
Yeah.
Now, the last injury is Cameron Meredith with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it's a torn ACL plus a good wide receiver last year. Wondering how he would do with Trubisky. It probably would have been a good match. Now we're going to see him struggle probably with Kevin White and Kendall Wright.
Yeah. Then there's one thing that I loved about Cameron Meredith because he's always that sleepy player you could target late in drafts that nobody thought about, who honestly had very few drops, had a high catch percentage, and he was targeted on most of his routes. Yeah, I know it was a different QB, but he's a very talented wide receiver, and it's always a shame to see someone like that get hurt. But man, it really turns me off of the Bears altogether, including Jordan Howard.
I agree. I think now the defenses are going to just stack the box.
Yeah.
Make it hard for Jordan Howard to go anywhere, and you're going to make Mitch Trubisky beat you.
Yeah, and which I think Mitch Trubisky can, but he has to have the weapons. I mean, look at Carson Wentz last year. He didn't have the weapons, and without a good offensive line, and I'm not saying the Bears have a bad offensive line. I'm just saying you didn't see Carson Wentz do a lot. I mean, he threw for the fourth most passing yards for rookies in NFL history, but it's hard to do things like that without any threats in the receiving corps.
To me, I don't see Kevin White as a threat in the passing game. So now you're looking at Kendall Wright and Adam Shaheen, and those aren't really, really valuable players. So everybody's going to stack it up against Howard again, and I think you're going to see tough sledding for Howard, and I'm not so sure I want any part of that Chicago offense.
Now we're going to start to move on, and there's something that I kind of wanted to bring up, and I wanted your input. How do you feel about the Cleveland Browns naming Deshaun Kaiser their starter?
I mean, at a certain point, you got to say this is enough, and this is the guy we're going to go with. Make your stand on a player, and I think that's what you're getting out of Kaiser.
I like the move. You got to give him his chance to succeed, and I love what Hugh Jackson said, that he's going to, if he was to go out there and start failing, that he's going to keep him in there. Where he's not going to take him out, he's going to give him his time to grow, which I remember there was plenty of times where they've had a QB in there, they did bad, so they took him immediately out. I honestly think it kind of helps Isaiah Crowell a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think Kaiser has that big arm where he could go over the top, and that means that the safety's got to respect him. So Crowell will get some open lanes.
Look what Kaiser did with Braxton Miller when he had that speedy receiver, and that makes me want to target Corey Coleman because he loves his speedy receivers. He loves being able to air it out with his arm and give his those speedsters a chance to get the ball.
Yeah, I think Coleman is a good benefactor of Kaiser.
Yeah, I think this may be a bold take, but I think I could see Kaiser being a top 20 QB this year.
That's solid. I mean, he's going to struggle. He's a rookie guy. So once you start seeing those crazy blitzes coming from Pittsburgh, coming from Green Bay, those blitz schemes are just crazy.
Oh, no, they are, but it's one of those things. I'm not trying to compare him to Russell Wilson per se, but I think if he can use that mobility that he has in a Russell Wilson type of manner, I think he could definitely turn bad plays into something out of nothing.
I actually compare him a little bit to Cam Newton, just not as big. They seem like a similar type player. They like to throw that ball deep. They like to run when they have to, and similar skill sets, I think.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just, for me, it's hard to make that connection when you look at how huge Cam Newton is
Cam's
compared
definitely
to every
huge.
other QB out there.
He's huge. There's no question.
Now we're going to get into the thickest part of our segment today. We're going to cover 15 of our wide receivers, 5 from early rounds, 5 from mid rounds, and 5 from late. Now, what's one of your top 5 wide receivers in the early rounds that you look to target?
I'm looking to target AJ Green.
I love AJ Green. That guy is an animal. If he didn't get injured last year, he would have had 7 straight seasons of 1,000+ yards.
Yeah, he was averaging 96 yards a game when he got hurt.
Yeah, and he's a target monster. And it's just one of those things. Think, last year, he had no other threats on the field. Jeremy Hill was struggling. Gio, again, is just a pass catching back. You're not going to load the box against him. Brandon LaFell, it's a wide receiver too. It is what it is. But you have no Tyler Eifert, no tight end threat. So your only threat is AJ Green, and he was still producing. He was matchup proof. Yeah,
he's one of my guys to target early.
And then now you have players like Tyler Eifert on there, and you add Joe Mixon. I think they're really trying to invest in that offense.
John Ross also.
Oh, yeah, you got to forget about the fastest man on earth.
Yep.
Then, for me, I think the second person I'm probably going to try and target in the first early rounds at least is Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, all the unbelievable one-hand catches, everybody sees those, but he's one of the fastest guys at the wide receiver position also.
Now, are you worried about the ankle injury that happened the other day?
I'm not worried about it. I think it's an ankle injury, the sprained ankle. Hopefully it's not a high ankle because those take a little longer to heal.
They haven't disclosed any of the information on this injury yet. Now, he appears to be fine because today on Twitter he posted this video of him dancing around and all that, and apparently his ankle looks fine. But even as a fellow athlete, I'm sure you've had ankle injuries where you can move around on it, but if you're doing it for a 60-minute game, that's a different story. A 30-second video to a 60-minute game, you're you're going to be hurting.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it. All the pushing off, all the sprinting, all the speed moves and twists and turns. If it's a high ankle sprain, those are difficult. Lower ones aren't so bad, but those high ones suck.
Now, do you expect him to play week 1?
I think the word out is he's going to sit week 1 and try and play week 2.
All right. Does that change where you would draft him at all?
I mean, you're going to miss one game. You just figure it's his one game of taking a break. So it's not drafting him or dropping him that much.
Okay. So, real quick, would you take Julio or Odell? Just to give our fans...
I would go safer with Julio. But
even
that's,
with his injuries, too?
Yeah, I think that his are the quicker healing types.
All right, fair enough. All right, who do you got for a third wide receiver that you want to target in the early rounds?
How about Mike Thomas?
I love Michael Thomas. Man, that kid is fast.
Fast and big. 6'2", 220, I believe.
He kind of reminds you of a Doug Baldwin slot receiver. Like, Doug Baldwin's great, so is Michael Thomas, but shoulder width like that, he's just a wide frame.
Yeah, he's a big guy. He's going to be a target monster, I think. If Brees throws 600 yards or 600 attempts, I'm thinking he gets 25% of those, and that's about 140-ish targets.
That's not bad at all. And with a guy that had a phenomenal reception rate last year, like his just catch percentage was through the roof. It's kind of hard not to want to target him, and it's not just what he does with it's not just him getting those quality of throws and being able to catch them. It's what he does after he catches the ball.
Yeah, he definitely has that ability to take a short pass and take it to the house.
He has that high football IQ that everyone loves to see.
Yeah.
Now, for fourth in our top 5, I think we have Doug Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin. This is one of my guys. Everything about this guy I love. I love his work ethic. I love his connection with Russell Wilson. I love that he stays in on almost every single down.
One of my favorite things about him is his footwork. The way, even coming off the line, he beats the defenders before he's 5 yards out. It's not even like he's beating them with speed. It's just he's putting them in like a loop-de-loop, and they're just spinning around, don't know what to do.
Yeah, he's a fantastic athlete. He's another one of those guys that's in their third year. Yeah, in his third year, and he's going to, make those improvements, make that jump.
Now, I agree with you. And now, moving on to our fifth receiver, Amari Cooper. I love him. And before, I was really kind of off him. And, here this preseason, I don't know. I just feel like he's really going to take that year 3 step forward. And I'm really starting to become a believer.
Yeah, I like him too. He put on some extra weight in the offseason and didn't lose any of the speed. He's showing a lot more in the preseason, making unbelievable catches also. Anytime the ball's up in the air, he's trying to go get it.
He's definitely a true athlete when it comes to that, and competitor. He's not going to let somebody beat him because he's being lazy. He's going to show you up with all of his physicality.
Yep.
Well, that's it for the early rounds. Who's somebody that you love to target in the mid rounds of the drafts?
So one of my favorite targets in the mid round, so we're talking 6, 7, 8, 9. I like Stephon Diggs from Minnesota.
He's another guy that's just peppered with targets by Sam Bradford.
Yep.
Now, you're not worried about Adam Thielen at all, taking away from him, or the reports that Laquan Treadwell is going to step up.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, that means they're taking away some of the defensive attention away, and that's going to leave them one-on-one with some of these corners. And the way I see it is Bradford is going to go to him more.
Now, see, one thing I was worried about, and it's something that I was reading into the other day, is that they're going to line up Stephon Diggs more on the outside rather than the slot like they have previously. Does that worry you at all?
Not at all. I actually like it. I think that Bradford's comfortable enough in this offense now where I think Diggs is going to be his first look.
That's good. I actually think his first look's probably going to be Rudolph, but he's always been a tight end man. So
he is a tight end guy.
See what you did there. All right, a player that I love to target in later rounds or mid rounds of drafts is Devontae Parker, and you can get him almost borderline late. This guy, as you said with Baldwin, this guy is my guy. I'm a Devontae Parker believer, and he jumped up my draft boards just because of Jay Cutler going to him.
Yeah, and one of the things is Cutler's not afraid of throwing the ball deep, and being 6'3" and fast, Parker's going to run deep.
And what Jay Cutler said about him was, I mean, it's like I said, kind of like a backhanded comment, but Jay Cutler said that Devontae Parker is a faster Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, that's a huge compliment.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that, like, it's not saying Alshon Jeffrey's slow. That guy's a fast guy. But they're both huge. They're both just fast receivers. And I think Devontae Parker can take that year 3 step. Like, his first year didn't look hungry. Last year, he was having problems getting it motivated and diet issues. Adam Gase didn't put up with it. Got him in gear before the end of the season happened. And now he looks like he wants to. And Adam Gase is definitely a player's coach. And he's in a contract year. I feel like he's definitely going to take that step forward. I feel like Adam Gase is going to give him those targets so he can get paid.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one of the big things is he has that opportunity, and he's a third-year wide receiver, and he's got a strong-armed quarterback. So, I mean, all signs are pointing up for his performance this year.
Yeah, there's no, like, if for some reason he doesn't perform, it's either A, due to injury, or B, he's just a bad player.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, who's somebody else in the mid-rounds you would like to talk about?
This guy is vastly underrated, and I don't get it. I mean, I look at him, I see him, and I'm like, this guy's a good wide receiver, and that's Michael Crabtree.
He's so consistent. Like, people always underrate him, but they don't realize that every week it's a touchdown. Every week he's getting 80, 90 yards with 6 receptions, and it's just like the guy is consistent for double-digit fantasy points every week, and he's a quiet top 20 receiver every year.
Every year.
At least since going with Derek Carr.
Yeah, every year. I mean, he's going to get the targets there, and for some reason, he is the goal line guy. Like, they throw to him on a goal line for some reason.
Because he's a reliable red zone target. Like, he's one of those guys, you give him the ball in the red zone, he's going to do everything he can to come down with the ball.
The only thing that scares me just a little bit is Cooper's emergence offsets Crabtree's productivity.
I think he loses probably a few targets, but I don't think it's anything that would cause me to not want to draft him. Because, again, it's like, even if Cooper starts emerging, it's something that you and I had talked about before, but that rapport between a quarterback and a receiver, that's one of those things that it's hard not to go to the guy you can trust.
Yeah,
the guy that's your friend. If you don't like the guy, it's easy to look elsewhere. But when you like that guy and you know you can trust that guy, I mean, if I was a QB, I'd keep on throwing it to him.
Throw it.
Number 4 for our mid-round picks is going to be an 816 favorite. Now, this is Tyreek Hill of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill, the little guy. Fast, speedy wide receiver. Mostly out of the slot, but has jumped outside a lot. He had 61 catches last year and just under 600 yards.
And the guy just has gas for days when it comes to, like, I mean, as soon as he catches the ball, he's automatically in 6th gear and he's just gone. This last preseason game in week 3 kind of made me worried about him because he had 3 passes that were just on target. I mean, in the numbers, hands, face mask, and he dropped them. And these were just bad drops, and it's just like, man, you can't do that. I know it's preseason, but like he was already turning to run essentially before he got the ball.
Well, it's a good thing it was a preseason, and now they have time to correct it, get them on the same path as the quarterbacks.
Now, with Jeremy Maclin gone, how much do you see Tyreek Hill's targets go up?
Honestly, I think it's going to only be about 20%. And with that 20%, it leaves him around 80 catches. And if you extrapolate out his yardage, it's about 800.
You think he's 800 yards?
About 800 yards.
I would say more so. Like, I'm thinking about 960 is what I'm thinking for him. I think it's 960 and maybe like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Well,
for a third wide receiver, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's what you're hoping for.
Now, lastly, this is one of my favorite targets in the draft, but he's burned me multiple times. But, like, one of my biggest things is you can't be sentimental about fantasy football. Like, if somebody's burned you, doesn't mean they're going to burn you again. Now, John Brown. Smokey Brown.
Smokey.
Now, this guy is fast, and Carson Palmer is best friends with this guy on and off the field. He's had a lot of injury problems based off of his sickle cell, which is an unfortunate thing for him. But the other day in preseason, this guy, he looked like he was back in step, and he was like not going to miss a beat. Yeah,
he's definitely one of the fastest guys in the NFL, and Palmer loves him, and he's from Pitt State, so everybody around here loves him.
Yeah, this guy's amazing, and I think if you can pick this guy up late in drafts, he's definitely going to be a wide receiver 3 for you or a phenomenal flex.
Yeah, and again, these are the kind of guys that you want to take in that spot. You want a third wide receiver with upside.
Yeah, I mean, his floor is terrible, but his ceiling is,
yeah, it's huge.
It's gone. Now, moving into the later rounds, this is when people start to panic late in drafts, when maybe they went too running back heavy, or maybe they drafted tight ends and QBs too early, and they need that wide receiver depth. Who are some of these players that you're looking for depth targets that have like high ceilings or just that big breakout potential?
Well, the first guy that I'm going to say is Cooper Kupp. I mean, to me, in a point per reception league, he's going to be huge.
Oh, undoubtedly. Like, that offense doesn't look like a high school offense that Jeff Fisher is coaching anymore. They actually look like they're running offensive plays.
Yeah,
not these weird, janky things.
Yeah, they definitely changed the offense, and I think it's going to be a little more pass heavy than people are thinking.
I think so too. I think, honestly, it's going to help Jared Goff probably more than anybody else in that offense aside from Todd Gurley. I mean, they've definitely committed. Like, they show that they committed to that offense by bringing in Sammy Watkins, let alone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, they brought in, Whitworth on the offensive line. Yep. And then they bring in Sammy Watkins, which they traded a lot for. I mean, second-round pick plus a defensive back, they're committing.
Yeah, and that's perfect for Kupp because Watkins takes the top off the coverage, leaving Kupp one-on-one with the nickel corner or the linebacker, however they want to cover it, and I'll take Kupp in that matchup every day.
And you can't forget about the little utility wild card that they have in there, Tavon Austin. You're not going to see him as a number one receiver. He's not going to – he may be a weekly DFS play here or there, but it's one of those things that I think every now and then you see him have those breakout plays that are going to make defenses be like, oh, crap, we can't forget about him. And it's going to take some of those pressures off of those main two wide receivers being Sammy Watkins and Cooper Kupp.
Yep, I think so too.
Here's a player that I think a lot of people are going to start picking up here recently because of the Julian Edelman injury, and that's Chris Hogan.
Yeah, another solid player, former lacrosse player, one of Brady's favorite targets in the preseason.
Yeah, and he's fast. Year 2 with Brady. I mean, maybe you see that rapport step up another year. Like, maybe see them take another step together, and hopefully there's no more injuries on that team. It's
going to be interesting to see who gets the majority of those lost Edelman targets, whether it's Cooks, Gronkowski, or Hogan.
I think it's going to be Hogan. I think they need that. I think he's probably going to step almost entirely into Edelman's role, and the way I would look at it is not so much who else is going to get Edelman's targets, but who's going to get the targets that Chris Hogan had. Like, I think you could see all those targets transfer to Chris Hogan, and then you got divvy up Chris Hogan's old targets.
Yeah, that's possible too.
Here's a player that a lot of people sleep on. They don't realize this guy was a 1,000-yard receiver last year, and he's with a new team with a rookie quarterback now. You got Kenny Britt, and you can even look at Corey Coleman.
Yeah, I'm a big Britt guy. Like, everything that I saw from him last year makes me want to go out and grab him as, a late wide receiver with upside.
And it's not bad. And then if you're in deeper leagues, look at Corey Coleman. I would probably almost be like here with Deshaun Kaiser being named the starter. I'm looking towards Corey Coleman more than I'm looking towards Kenny Britt, but I'm still not upset by either of them.
Yeah, I think Coleman's going to be more of the underneath PPR kind of guy who catches 5 or 6 balls in a game.
I can see that. Now, this is probably one of your favorite wide receivers. You want to call him out?
Yeah, Zay Jones. Zay Jones in Buffalo. He's a phenomenal wide receiver in college. Caught everything that was ever thrown to him in college. Never dropped the ball. The dude has phenomenal hands. Runs great routes. The only thing that scares me a little bit is the Buffalo offense might struggle.
I think they will. That's one thing I'm really worried about with them is they don't have a lot going for them. They look like they're in a total rebuild mode, and I'm still leaning towards the side that I think Shady is on a different team by the end of the year.
I think he makes it through the year, but I think Shady could also lead a team in receptions.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I've actually been tuning that one for a minute now that I think, yeah, he's probably going to, maybe not receptions, but probably receiving yards at least.
Well, and that's another one of the things. With that offense, I don't see too many deep balls, but I do see a lot of the short passes. So in a PPR league, that's perfect for Zay Jones.
Yeah. Now, lastly, in our late round targets, you got Kevin White and Kendall Wright. Now, both of these wide receivers are only being brought up because of injury to Cameron Meredith, who we both liked Cameron Meredith, but now it's one of these things that you could probably target these receivers and they could probably make a difference for you in bye weeks or flex plays here or there.
Yeah, again, these guys are, the late round lottery tickets. You're hoping to hit on one or two of them that make a difference on your team. In Kevin White, I'm not as much as a fan. Whenever I see him run, he looks like a lineman. He looks slow, and I haven't seen him catch a ball yet.
Yeah, it's kind of tough when you don't see a player produce. I mean, it's almost like Marquise Lee with the Jags. That player was talented, but have you ever seen him produce anything? Too many injuries, doesn't look motivated when he is healthy. It's a shame to see that much talent kind of go to waste.
And on the other hand, with Kendall Wright, he's been in the NFL. He's been an NFL wide receiver. I think he makes more sense in that offense to go after than Kevin White.
I can see that. We've kind of covered a lot with these little wide receivers and all that. What else would you want to bring up on this today?
So here's a question for you. How long have you been playing fantasy football?
Since 2013.
I go back a little bit farther.
I figured.
My first league, I couldn't remember the exact date, but I think it was 98. A 16 league. I was a commissioner, and we kept score using the USA Today on Monday or Tuesday.
That's crazy.
That was a long time ago.
I had always watched football and all that, but I never got too invested in it. It actually wasn't until fantasy football that I became very invested in. I'm a very passionate person about things that interest me and bring me joy, and it just fantasy football it's something competitive that I can do in my spare time. And I realized that my spare time became a lot more when it came to fantasy football, that I used all my spare time for it. And hours a day, every day of the week, studying, reading articles, listening to podcasts, watching videos. You're just constantly engulfed in it. Now preseason means something to me every year, and you constantly want to see what's happening.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I am too. I get engulfed in it too.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and it's bad for relationships sometimes.
Yeah, it struggles, but you got to try and make that balance. One of the ways that I like to do it is, okay, babe, if I win this league, I'm going to take you out to a nice dinner.
Yeah, sometimes it's not even about the money. It's just about the trophy, the belt, the ring, whatever you may be using for your league to have bragging rights. Sometimes it's dishing out a punishment to the Sacko winner. You're just man, the winner of the league gets to choose the punishment. It's kind of one of those fun things.
Yep, it's always a good time. I especially like winning.
Yeah, I think we're all competitive and we're all here for a reason. So yeah.
How many, or if any, individual defensive player leagues do you play in?
I play in one IDP league. I
also play in one.
And it's actually my first one. I started it this year. It's also a 2 QB league too. So This one was a 2 QB league IDP, and it was also my first auction league. So it's a first for a lot of things. But these people are all great people. We're all very active in the league, always talking. And it's the way I did my IDP draft the other night. I was actually kind of upset because it was still my first auction draft. But I was saving a lot of my budget because there was a lot of players that I wanted on my team that I was just I need to have these players. And I didn't realize that they were going to go for as cheap as they did. Because there was one player I was really high on that I wanted was Joey Bosa. And I could have actually, I guess, won him on the bid, but he went a little bit higher than I was anticipating. And I wanted to make sure my budget was, I had enough salary left for the remaining players. And I wound up having $24 left in salary because I waited for everybody else's salaries to go away, and then I started nominating the players I wanted, and I was getting them for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah, that's one of the tough things about doing an auction league is you never want to leave with extra money. You always want to spend it. So my recommendation would be those top 5 or 6 guys, try and go after them as best as you can.
Yeah. Where on the offensive side, that was actually a lot of fun because I spent all my money, and I think I had $6 left over, but all the top players I wanted, the first player that was nominated was AJ Green, and I think people were trying to save money because I got him for $44. And then 6 players later, Le'Veon Bell was not nominated right before or like 3 picks after David Johnson, and I got him for 46, and David Johnson went for almost 70, like $69. I thought I like didn't know about an injury that happened to Le'Veon Bell. I was like, was he in a car wreck? Does he have a concussion? Like, what's going on? And I'll take Le'Veon Bell for $46 of a $200 salary cap every day.
Yeah, that's one of those things. You want to go after those top 5-8 guys right off the bat because everybody's thinking they're going to want to save for the late and mids, but really the value is now becoming in the 5 through 10 picks.
And what was actually funny about like something you had said earlier about your how you allot your percentage of your salary and all that, about $50 worth to running backs.
Mm-hmm.
I think I probably only spent about $58 on running backs because they're kind of rough after Le'Veon Bell. I think my second starter is Bilal Powell that I spent like $6 on, and then I got Doug Martin for $5, and I got Jaquez Rogers for $3, and then I went like Joe Connor for like $2 or something like that.
And there's nothing wrong with doing it. That's one way of doing it. Other people like having that position solidified where they don't have to worry about anything. Where I think a lot of the value becomes those late round $2-3 guys.
See, I spent a lot on wide receiver in that league, and it's just because like it was the prices I had already like done on the research I had done on the wide receivers I was targeting. They were going for cheaper than what I had them priced at. Like the reason why I was bidding on AJ Green is one of the strategies someone told me is if you have somebody, I believe it was you actually, if you have someone marked at $50, bid on him until $50. Because then if you win him, okay, that's what I had him going for. Okay, so you can move on with your draft. But if you get him for less than that, you're getting him at a bargain every time. And AJ Green, I was like, okay, I had him marked at 50. I got him for 44. I was like, oh, okay. Then I had Michael Crabtree marked at 14 for me. I got him for 10. I had Keenan Allen marked at 14 for me. I got him for like 11. I had Alshon Jeffrey, which kind of biased on that one, but I got him for 20 or 21, I believe, and I had him at like 18, but I wanted him. He was actually my second wide receiver. But then I got Cooper Kupp for $1, and I got all these other depth. I got John Brown for $1. I was like, all these players we had talked about, I was like, it's awesome that in an auction league you have that opportunity at every player you want. That's
the greatest thing about doing an auction. You have that chance to get your players. You may have to, pay some money for them, but it's your team and you got it the way you want it.
But you also, another good thing about auction leagues is it brings that much more emphasis on knowing your league. Like every time before I nominated somebody, I looked at who I wanted, what I needed, and I also looked at the budgets of everybody else in the league. Like I wanted to see what their max bid was, how many players they needed left. I wanted to see how much salary they had just in general, so I could, like, okay, if I nominate the player I want for this position, am I going to be able to bid enough on him or get a bargain on him, or am I going to be outbid? And so sometimes I nominated players that, like, I was the first one to nominate a QB. I didn't even bid on him. I put up Aaron Rodgers for $1, and he went for like 45. I was like, I'm fine with that. Someone else wasted roughly 25% of their salary for a QB when I could get 2 QBs for less than that.
Yeah, that's more of the strategy of an auction. Get them to spend their money as soon as possible, as much as possible.
Yeah. So I was actually reading this article the other day, and I don't know, like I wasn't sure how I felt about it. I'm kind of curious. So in this article, they were asking advice that someone in their league had nominated David Johnson, and then someone for $1, and then someone immediately jumped it up to $50, and then someone bid 51, and then they realized it was David Johnson of the Pittsburgh Steelers tight end.
Oh, that's a tricky one. I've actually run across that before.
Now, I'm kind of leaning towards the side because I'm a very attentive person. Like when I type in names on there, like even when I'm entering in draft results, I'm making sure I'm entering in the correct thing. Now, I'm that person that I think the person that paid $51 should pay $51 for him. That's on them for not paying attention to their draft, not knowing what was going on, and them they saw one thing. You saw a green light and you went. Well, that green light was in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's definitely on them. If they're not paying attention enough to notice that it's the wrong David Johnson, then yeah, they got to pay it.
I can understand that, like if half the league agreed that, hey, that wasn't right, et cetera, but I still think that person should be punished. And I think at worst case, maybe you make him pay $15 for David Johnson tight end or something like that. Like, because obviously it's a player that's going to be immediately dropped. It definitely affects his league for the year. And what another thing that was also said in this article is that was also the first player nominated. Or that period.
So everybody had money and everybody saw the name, didn't even check it, and started bidding right away. I had it happen to me in a league a few years back when Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
There was Adrian Peterson for Minnesota, and then there was Adrian Peterson for Chicago.
Okay.
They nominated the Chicago one, and he started at $1, and he went up to about 15, and everybody in the league realized it was a Chicago guy, and they stopped bidding. So it only cost them $15 for not paying attention. But that's why always pay attention to when they get nominated and who it is.
I kind of want to like go give the guy who nominated him a high five.
I mean, it's a sneaky move, but it's a move.
Like, because the guy who nominated him for $1, someone else bid $50 on him, like right off the bat. And did he know, or was he just trying to jack up the price that quick so someone would bid 51? Like, I was kind of curious about that.
Yeah,
like,
the second guy. Yeah,
because it was I guess the way the story read, it was only 3 bids. It was the nomination bid, 50, and then the $1 bid, or the $51 bid.
Or maybe you hit the button right before he realized what it was, and it went to 51. You know, he kind of probably got caught in between, going up 1. I don't know. That's crazy. That's a crazy one.
Yeah, that's, man. I'd be a little bit mad, but like I said, I usually read everything because you have plenty of time. Like, there's usually 30 seconds in between bids, like on the first couple nominations.
Yeah, you got time.
So I mean, look at what's being nominated.
Absolutely, pay attention. Next question: do you play in any dynasty leagues?
I do not. I really want to, though.
See, to me, I think it's the next step. Once you start doing, all these other ones, I think dynasty and having the ability to trade draft picks. So a dynasty league is where you get to keep your players for a few years, and
you draft rookies.
And you draft rookies, basically. I think it's the next level. Trade draft picks, trade players, move around the draft board, do stuff during the off season.
It becomes more of a franchise feeling.
Yeah, I definitely own the 2 that I have.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're mine.
See, now that's one thing I want. Like, don't get me wrong, I like redraft leagues. I don't mind doing snake drafts. But the whole dynasty aspect. I've been trying to get my league to convert over to dynasty for the past 2 years, or at least keepers. Nobody wants to do keepers. It's always redraft, and it's just like one of those things. Like, man, like I've been trying to get like one of my biggest pet peeves is kickers. I want to get rid of kickers altogether. No kickers. I would even be like ecstatic about no kickers and no DSTs. But like it's one of those things. Nobody like I always get outvoted on it. And like I said, I run a democracy. I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. Like just because I'm the one that organizes everything and all that stuff. Which other commissioners out there, it's a headache. Like it's just man. But I've always wanted to be a part of the dynasty league because it's like every year. Even before like the real draft, I've done so much research on rookies that are coming into the draft. I've watched film, I've watched college football games. I'm just like, man, this is a player that I can see doing great things in the future. And some of them aren't even like early round picks. Some of them I'm talking about like these are late receivers, late running backs that you're just like you're really hyped about. Like for me, Kareem Hunt was somebody else like I was looking at that I wanted the Eagles to get Alvin Kamara. Like I'm just like, man, these are good running backs. These were some of my favorite running backs coming into the draft.
Yeah, you're ready. You whatever dynasty league you get in next, you'll be a good player in it.
And one of my favorite things about the whole dynasty aspect is the fact that you can trade draft picks. Like the draft picks actually have value because in my league we can trade draft picks. Like we've had every year there's always like one type of trade and it's just they swap complete spots in the whole redraft. And I'm just like, no, someone was gonna trade up in the draft for me for my second spot, and it was basically we're gonna swap first and seconds. So I could, like, it would have worked out to where I would have had to pick every 8 picks essentially, and then I would have got there 4th and 5th. And I was like, and I was ecstatic about that because I was like, oh, that gives me an extra 4th and 5th. That means I'll automatically draft QB early. I'll draft wide receiver early because I know I have all these extra. Yeah, you got
extra. So I'll tell you, we had my draft for Dynasty was yesterday, so we had a draft pick trade we actually had 2 at the draft. The first one I made, I had the 10th pick, and I traded back to the 11th pick, and I picked up a 3rd round pick.
See, that's great value.
Not a bad deal. The guy that I wanted at 10 wasn't there, so it didn't really bother me that much. The other draft day trade was huge. One side was trading away Alshon Jeffrey, this year's 2nd, next year's 1st and 2nd, for the number 4 pick, which is huge. That's a big deal.
That's next year's first and second.
First, second for next year.
And
this year's second, and Alshon Jeffrey for number 4.
So he traded 3 picks plus swapping his first pick, I imagine. So essentially 4 picks and
second pick. So number.
Because he had a first round pick this year, right?
The dude stayed on his first.
Oh, okay.
So he got rid of a second this year, a first and second next year, and Alshon Jeffrey.
So that's why he gave up so much, is because he was still keeping his first.
Right.
He probably could have done the pick or the trade for a lot less had he gave up his first.
Right.
Okay.
And he ended up picking Leonard Fournette at number 4.
That's not bad. Did he do it before the draft, or just when he realized Fournette was right there, he was like, okay, this is my offer?
Right at the time of the draft, right when number 4 came up, he made the offer. And we actually gave the owners about an extra minute to decide on it rather than their allotted minute 30.
Yeah. I feel like if there's a trade like that, like I feel like you have to give them, like any trade in the first round, you have to give them like an extra minute.
Yeah, I mean, we all voted on it, and we all said give him a little time. So
I was like, because that's a minute 30. That's tough to even come up with that trade idea and send it to him. But you can't just be like, oh, well, give him an extra minute. I might want to trade with him. No, you need that. Like if we're gonna give him an extra minute, you have to have that trade offer out. That's the way I would say it.
So the guy who got number 4 picked up Leonard Fournette and Zay Jones, his first 2 round picks.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a solid core.
And who do you go with your
number 1? I went with Corey Davis.
Number 1, Corey Davis.
Yeah.
Now, how's your QBs?
I have Aaron Rodgers, so I don't worry about quarterback.
You don't worry about things like that.
I mean, I pick up a guy in free agency every year just to have a backup. This year I picked up, I thought it was Tyrod Taylor, but then I also drafted Sam Bradford just in case.
Now, on your keepers that you get to keep, that you were telling me about, the protected 4, essentially, can they only be protected on your team for so long?
No, those you can protect for as long as you want to.
Okay, that's interesting, because I know some leagues, they do it like every third year. These players are automatically nominated essentially to go back to free agency.
We also have another group of 4 that we call transition players, and those guys can only be transitioned for 2 years of service or less.
Okay.
So it's basically 3 years.
Rookies who you get to keep for 3 years.
That they get put into that transition.
Oh, okay. So they automatically are 2 years or less.
2 years or less.
All right, I like that.
It's a fun league. I enjoy it.
Is that your favorite league? Since it's dynasty.
I mean, I love the dynasty aspect of it. I also like high scoring crazy leagues.
High scoring crazy leagues.
Yeah, those bonus leagues. Extra points for tight end touchdowns, all those kicker extra bonus yards.
And that league I had referenced to you before about where the defenses are ridiculously high scoring. Like they score as much as some QBs in regular leagues, like 20 points and all that, which is ridiculous, and it's really frustrating because you have to draft a defense early because it's essentially 20 points. You're just like, if you don't have a good defense there. But other things I like about this league is it's 6 points per passing touchdown. I like that. If your QB throws a 300-yard game, you get a bonus 3 points. If your QB throws a 50-yard touchdown, it's a bonus 5 points on top of that 6 points. So you got 50 yards to go to this normal scoring. You got the 50-yard bonus for it being a 50-yard pass that turns into a touchdown. So there's 11 points right there. And then for the receivers, it's the same thing. Receivers is 5 points, but running backs, if they break off for a 50-yard plus run, it's 7 points.
Wow.
So, or 50-yard plus touchdown run.
Wow.
So,
lots of bonuses.
Yeah, there's times that we get up to 300 some odd points. There was one year I had AJ Green, and I'm sure I think it was 2 years ago, and he had it was 8 receptions, 240 yards, and 3 TDs or something like that. He single-handedly won me that week. I was down 40 points, and then he played his game, and I was actually at my little brother's tournament baseball game, and I was just watching my phone. I got usually I'm so into my little brother's baseball game, that's my favorite sport to watch is when he's playing. I'm just up there screaming every time, and I'm that obnoxious older brother that's / parent type thing. I'd rather go watch him play than the Eagles play, if that makes any sense.
Oh, that's good.
It was I was actually getting into my phone. I was like, there's no way I'm going to win this. There's no way. And it was a cool fantasy football moment for me, like to watch all those bonus scorings go up and all that. Just
ding, bonus.
Yeah,
bonus.
I think I won by like 11 points, and the guy got so mad.
Wow, that's a good one. All right, so let's get back to a little bit of football, and we'll do some quick hitting dynasty matchups.
Right.
So the first one, I'm gonna go. Who would you rather have, Mitchell Trubisky or Pat Mahomes?
This is a really tough one because you gotta look at both teams as a complete, and this is for dynasty aspects. And I think before I probably would have said Mitchell Trubisky, and it's just because I think he's the more talented player, like overall, like just he's has a safer floor and a higher ceiling. Patrick Mahomes is a bigger boom bust, but I would have to go with Mahomes because I know the offense there, I know their offensive line, and I'm not saying Chicago doesn't have a good offensive line. They do. They probably have a top 10 O line, if not better. But they also have Kansas City also has that defense, so I'd probably go Patrick Mahomes just because I know the game script of Andy Reid.
I'm going to go with Trubisky on this one, and the reason why is because I think he's just a little bit better of an athlete. I think he has a stronger arm. The one thing that I do worry about is his offensive weapons, but I think that those really good quarterbacks can overcome those weapon deficiencies, and that's why I like Trubisky a little bit better.
Okay.
How about if we go and do some tight end talk real quick? Evan Ingram or Rico Gathers?
I like Rico Gathers because, again, I like the situation better. I like Dak Prescott as a better QB than Eli Manning. I feel like Eli Manning's on a time clock that eventually he's going to be, done. They're not going to re-sign him, whatever it may be. They're going to draft a younger QB coming in because he's getting older. You got to imagine, he's not old like Tom Brady, but the guy's definitely showed that he's not the same QB he was 2-3 years ago.
Yeah. To me, I'm an Evan Ingram truther.
Yeah, I imagine.
Everything I see him as the flex tight end where you put him in space and let one of the slower linebackers try and cover him, and he'll just eat him up. And I think he leads the all rookie tight ends in catches this year.
I can see that, yeah. Because he definitely doesn't have any competition on for tight ends.
Well, even if he does, I still think that they use him as that flex. Go out in the flat, catch some balls, and let him run. I see him as a big wide receiver is what I see. And if you could get a big wide receiver and put him into your tight end, that gives you a huge advantage.
Yeah.
It's almost like having a cheaper Jordan Reed is how I would look at it.
I can see that.
So the next dynasty question, where in a dynasty, you get to keep young guys 2 or 3 years. Corey Davis or Zay Jones?
Corey Davis.
I'm Corey Davis also. I think he's one of those freak athletes. Great hands.
Look what he did with Western Michigan. He set records. Like, that kid is phenomenal. Like, every time you watch his highlights, you're just like, all right, yeah. Like, I honestly thought the Eagles were going to draft him in the first round. But then I was like, he went 7th overall or? Yeah,
he was early. He was top 10. I don't remember the exact number, but yeah, he was early.
I was just dumbfounded by it. I was like, man, you got to be like that. And then I was like, hey, I guess that's how it happens. So I didn't think there was going to be one wide receiver in the top 10, let alone 3.
Yeah, 3 was crazy. The only problem that I see with him is the opportunity might not be there right away with Decker and
Rashard Matthews.
Yeah. So, and it's a good thing that he's going to get to learn from Decker. Decker's been around for a long time, and he could teach him some lessons.
And Decker produces everywhere he goes.
Everywhere he goes.
He's definitely, there's a reason why he's never a free agent for long.
And then finally, let's do the running back position. You got Leonard Fournette or Kareem Hunt. Which side are you on?
Kareem Hunt.
See, I'm still a Fournette guy. And
now, when you're looking at it for, future and all that, I understand why you're a Fournette guy, but I don't understand Jacksonville's future as a team. Fournette's going to get the touches. He's going to be 280-plus touch guy. But usually I'm that gambler that I'm willing to go bet on somebody and all that, to see what they can give me. And I feel like Fournette has the talent to have a high payout, but Kareem Hunt, man, he's a complete package too, and he has, I mean, he's an every down back, and he has that good offense around him. Like, you know what Alex Smith's going to get you this year, and you know what Patrick Mahomes can get you in the future.
I agree. It's a tough question, but to me, Fournette gets a slight edge because he's is going to carry that running. Yeah, he's huge, and he's going to carry that team. I don't think they want Bortles to throw the ball at all, so I could honestly see a game script where they try and pound the ball 40 times a game.
Now, as Fournette being as big as he is and being that pure rushing back, what's one player that he reminds you of? I mean, there's one player that, like, in the NFL today that, like, is still in there, that's who he reminds me of, and that's Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, big, fast guy.
Yeah, like, and he's a guy that, like, when he stiff arms you, when you try and tackle him, like, defenders, like, will shy away from him because he initiates contact. He will put you into a grave by you trying to tackle him.
Yeah, that stiff arm is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't know if Fournette has that because I haven't seen it yet, but I do see the breakaway ability. I do see him bouncing off people. I even saw him catch a couple balls where he looked fine doing it, so I don't question his hands.
I haven't seen his hands enough to be able to have an opinion on that part.
I think Kareem Hunt has everything going for him also. You know, he catches the ball, he blocks well, he runs well, and he does have Andy Reid behind him, and they are going to lean on him. The only thing I worry about is the backup.
West?
Yeah, Charkandrick West. I think he's going to get a little bit more run than people think.
I don't see him getting any more work than what anybody's thinking. I actually think he's probably going to get less because I think one of Kareem Hunt's biggest benefactors to Andy Reid is he can block. And Andy Reid has always been a QB-type coach. He always loves his QBs, wants to protect them. And if you can protect his QB, he's going to keep you on the field. Yeah,
that's one of the important things of rookie running backs. If they can protect their quarterback, make those blocks, they're going to play the ball. They're going to play a lot.
Especially with a coach like Andy Reid. Like, it's just one of those things that you're showing him that you're more versatile than just being a offensive weapon, that you can do something defensively on offense.
Yeah, they're both really, really good players, and I would struggle if I had to choose one of them on my team.
I think if you had me in a dynasty league right now, I'd probably go Hunt over Fournette.
That's huge. Yeah. I mean, I've seen it. It happened in the league that we were talking about earlier. I mean, you really can't go wrong with either choice.
Now, if Ware wasn't hurt and all that, I'm going Fournette first, just because Fournette's going to produce sooner than later.
Yeah, the opportunity.
Yeah.
So here's my final question for you. Who's your favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete for football would be Joe Montana. The guy he's just one of the all-time greats. I was upset that Brady got more rings than him now. Joe Montana has that iconic picture of him, like, holding the football with all 4 rings on. I actually have that magazine at home. Like, the guy never thrown an interception in a Super Bowl game. Like, he's just never relied on a kicker like Tom Brady has to win a Super Bowl game. I'm just saying, like, through and through, this guy has always been a competitor and has always relied on himself to win him games. So, except for Jerry Rice.
My NFL is Brett Favre, just because I'm a Packer fan. I've always been a Packer fan. He led my teams to Super Bowls, and he's a phenomenal player, gunslinger, not afraid to throw the ball downfield, not afraid to make a mistake, bounces up every time he got hit.
You know, one of my favorite games for Brett Favre, and it's a sad game too, was the game his dad had died before.
Yeah.
And he went into that game, didn't throw an interception, threw 4 or 5 TDs, something ridiculous, setting a franchise record, I believe, that same day for Green Bay. And they asked him, like, and this quote, like, gives you goosebumps. They asked him that, like, after, like, why do you play? Your dad just died. He's like, because this is what my dad would want.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was just like, man, that dude puts chills down your back.
That's the kind of player Brett Favre was. I also have a secondary one, and everybody around here would know it's Derek Thomas.
Yeah, phenomenal linebacker.
I always wanted to play like him. I always wanted to be able to dip my shoulder and come around the corner and hit a quarterback like that.
But back to Brett Favre, there's something else I wanted to bring up. I love his sense of humor. I don't know if you ever heard about some of the pranks he pulled on Aaron Rodgers.
Always a prankster.
Did you hear about the one, like, Brett Favre was telling this story? He's like, I guess because him and Aaron Rodgers just didn't get along. They hated
At first,
each other.
they hated each other. Yeah, they were.
But Brett Favre had told Aaron Rodgers, "Hey, you need to sign this helmet and all that." And he said in the middle of the conference room, he's like, "You need to sign this helmet." And he had everybody else already signing. He's like, "You need to sign this. We're donating it to charity." He's like, "Okay." So he signed it. And this is Aaron Rodgers' rookie year. That was Aaron Rodgers' practice helmet.
Nice.
So he went out to the field and the coaches started shooting out Aaron Rodgers, "Where's your helmet?" And they had Brett Favre had sent off the helmet to be donated to charity, and it was signed by the whole team.
Nice.
And Aaron Rodgers was so mad, but I was just like, that makes me want to be Brett Favre's friend. Like, that's like, he would fit in with my like group of friends. Like, the way we are to each other, I was like, man, that's a funny guy. Like,
that's the kind of guys I want to be around.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting little tidbit. In Brett Favre's first contract with the Packers, there was a clause in there saying that he would no longer wrestle alligators in his backyard.
So, like, not his rookie contract, but his like first contract.
His first contract, yeah.
Wow.
They were afraid that something was going to get bit off when he wrestled alligators in his backyard.
Okay, fair enough. Like, you got to protect your QB.
You
like,
got to protect him.
We're going to pay you this money. You can't wrestle alligators ever again. Is it just in his backyard or just alligators in general?
I think it was alligators in general, but I remember him saying it was in his backyard.
Oh, that's great. So, who's your favorite all-time athlete?
Oh, my favorite all-time athlete's Bo Jackson.
Yeah?
I mean, pull up a YouTube video on him and you'll see him just do things that normal people can't do.
Even today.
Yeah, even today. Running up walls, running out of stadiums, Tecmo Bowling people.
I mean, biggest cheat code ever.
Yeah.
Not to say my favorite is probably Mike Tyson, man. Like, I told you about it before. That guy had, like, I've always been a boxing and MMA fan. I did MMA for a long time. I did boxing for a long time. And he was just one of those fighters that I always wanted to model my boxing game after. Like, it's just one of those things that, like, watching him move in front of his opponent, like, just swaying back and forth like a windshield wiper without dipping in front of them and all that, making them miss and then tearing them up with body shots. I mean, it was just always great to watch an athlete like that.
Yeah, the dude was ferocious in the ring. I mean, he wanted to tear the head off of whoever he was facing, and you could see it the way he threw punches.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all we have for you today. Thank you for joining us here on From Sacko to Shiva, episode 3. Make sure you tune in next week. It'll be the last episode before the season starts. And make sure you check out Mark Out Wrestling with Glenn and Anthony, also from 816 Podcasting. Thank you so much.